ask for help, right? Nowhere have I ever said that, hey, I did everything by myself, right? I have an incredible partner in my husband, right? He taught me a lot about business and I made a lot of mistakes and he took a chance on me. So I have a partner, I have help, right?
What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? Dr. Vikram Raya is a functional cardiologist, high-performance coach, and real estate expert, is here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life, unlock your limitless potential, and achieve greatness, all while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Limitless MD. I have Renee Dua. She's a physician, she's a nephrologist, she's an inventor, a startup queen, and she is a successful CMO of a powerful exit of our recent company, Heal. And she's going to come to us today and talk about the power of a physician going beyond the stethoscope and making a change in healthcare, making a change in technology and entrepreneurship, while still being a super mom and all the other great things that she does. So welcome, Renee, to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just entranced and just mesmerized by your story and your vision. So you work in the San Fernando Valley, where you take care of the sort of the blue collar patient, and you help these people with chronic kidney disease, get transplants and do well on dialysis for as many years as possible, or even stay off of dialysis if possible. And you had this vision of doing things outside of medicine. Where did that come from, and what made you think you could do that?
So I've never really left medicine in terms of what I've done outside of practicing. I'll say it that way. But there's two parts. One, and most importantly, I became a mother, which for me was not simple, not easy. Nearly died, suffered massive travesty with my children. And it really taught me that even though I'm a doctor, my people don't necessarily protect me, right? I had to do things for myself. I had to make things happen, even though I was hoping that the doctors who are my colleagues would help me. So that was one. And two is credit to my kidney patients, many of whom at the time were on peritoneal dialysis, which is dialysis done at home. I had a very big peritoneal dialysis following, and anybody who practices nephrology knows that people who do dialysis at home live longer and do better. They're more empowered. I was very excited by what they could do. And I thought about melding being a working mom with a difficult family experience with taking care at home, right? Taking care to the home. That's really the evolution of how I started Heal.
So Heal was really one of the successful entrants in the space of taking so essentially doctor house calls. You were able to take the care for people who perhaps were difficult for them to leave the house, or they had issues or disabilities, and you were able to bring care to the home. I mean, it's such a powerful thing. And I know you eventually scaled that with your team, taking care of like over 2,000 patients per week across the US. And then I know you won some innovation awards, and now this company was successfully acquired by Humana. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. When we built Heal, we were focused on vulnerable populations like children and seniors. But frankly, it was primary care in the home for everyone. And how we built Heal was marketing to the chief medical officer of the house, which is mom, right? So we scaled Heal by getting mom to understand that this was an easier way for her kids to get healthcare and for her to get healthcare. And frankly, since she's taking care of the parents, for them to get healthcare.
Do you see this kind of home-to-home delivery of healthcare expanding over the next couple of years?
100%. I mean, this is the future of medicine, and you can see a lot of activity in the space with the acquisitions of house call practices. I do think it's economically very difficult to scale. And I also think, unfortunately, that many of the groups that buy these house call practices don't have a clue about what a doctor needs to do in the home and what a patient needs in the home. So I also think a lot of these purchases will be write downs in the next several years. But I do think that for generations like ours, yours, I won't say ours, I don't know how old you are, but younger people and our children, our lives are on smartphones, and using cameras and text to get care is not unbelievable for us. And frankly, if we can't do things that way, we just won't do it, or we'll find the way to do it.
Yeah, and I'm sure the pandemic has sort of fast track a lot of this technology to where
Yes.
I think you can't close the Pandora's box now that's open. People are used to
Agree.
getting televisits and telemedicine now, and so I think you're absolutely right on that. So let's switch gears here a little bit. You're still practicing, and you told me like the only thing that keeps you away from practicing is going and delivering your kids. Otherwise, you're there practicing, and
That's
I love
right.
the dedication you have to your patients. And those people listening to the podcast, guys, you know that I've brought so many different kind of physicians onto the podcast. Some leave, some practice, some do hybrid, but it's all possible. So can you speak, Renee, to the physician gentleman or the physician female who is saying, I can only do medicine. It's hard for me to do anything else.
I mean, absolutely. I used to think that way, and I was wrong. I was wrong about myself. And I think it's really important to not necessarily listen to the naysayers. I think it's really important to hear yourself out and what else you'd like to accomplish, whether it be making more time at home with your family or starting a second endeavor or doing both, right? But I do think what's important is having an organized plan of attack so that holes cannot be poked, and remembering that it's far easier for people to say, no, you can't. It makes them feel better, right? They don't believe in you. You have to believe in yourself. It can be done. I've done it. I keep doing it. It's just a matter of being organized with my plan of attack and believing that I don't have to listen to the word no.
I love that. I love how, and that's what happens for the people who are entrepreneurs, who are visionaries, who are making change makers, who want to make a dent in the universe. They want to disrupt healthcare. They want to be a voice for patients. They want to change how medicine operates because it's broken, and we all know that. So you've created Renee. Your husband is also the co-founder and the creator of this company, Renee. Now, is he a physician as well?
No, my husband is a serial entrepreneur. This is
Okay.
his fifth venture backed startup.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So obviously, success leaves clues. He's figured out a couple of things. And now, each time you can, optimize and maximize and get to that next level. So what is Renee about? Tell the audience what that's about. It's your new startup. And what is it meant to do? And tell me about some of the challenges you've had creating it.
Sure. Simply put, Renee is a health assistant. So to transcend the terrible experience that patients are having in between their doctor's appointments, right? They get a list of things to do at every doctor's appointment. To transcend how difficult that experience is, they need assistance. And we are a part of what is known as the sandwich generation, right? We're taking care of our children, we're taking care of our parents. But as we grow older, there is not going to be enough caregivers. It's just simply put, not going to happen for us. So software will have to scale this problem. And when you use software, and by the way, we are using intelligence, artificial intelligence, to create health assistance, you can do a lot of things for people that can be automated. Reschedule appointments, call for refills, remind that refills need to be due, remind that medicines need to be taken, look at the camera of your phone and take your vitals, right? See that your medicines are actually working. Share all of this information easily with someone who loves you. It is unbelievable for me to look at my father's records when he goes to a major tertiary care center. It is unreal how hard that was and how hard it is for me to share his records with another tertiary care. It's done on purpose. This is done by design, so it is difficult to own your information. To transcend these problems, I have to give software to the hands of the very people who need to use it, and they need to own their information. And Renee strives as a company to do that, really, to give ownership to sick people and the people who love them.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the silos that medicine operates in must be torn down, and I think you
Yes.
got to have interconnectivity. You got to have, the user experience has to be super friendly. You got to amplify the whole thing if you can,
Yes.
and like, uh, the amazing thing about like products like Apple is like, a 3-year-old kid can use it as well as a 83-year-old, you know, gentleman.
Yes.
So it's like we just got to translate that into medicine where it's, the user experience is there, and it's useful, right? Like refills,
Yes.
you talked about medications, vital signs, share information. The technology for a lot of this is already there. It just,
It is.
can you
It's
put in
just not put together.
one simple platform, and then can that communicate with, the EHRs or whatever else is out there? That's amazing.
That's right.
So is there is are you the new entrant in the space, or is this a crowded space? Are you worried about that? Tell me about that.
I never worry about crowds because the best software will win,
Mm.
right? As much as, amplifying things and Amazoning things is there were other people who have tried and they have either been bought or failed, right? So I think that the best experience will win. So I rarely worry about competition. I think there's a ton of noise in the health tech space because billions of dollars were ineffectively poured into the space by VCs who were trying to make a quick buck. And you're seeing the fallout of that waste of money, right? A lot of companies are closing, or the Department of Justice is investigating them, or whatever, right? There's a lot of nonsense, unfortunately, when it comes to VC backing. Um, I do think that when you are looking to solve a problem, sometimes you are creating a product that helps no one, and sometimes you're creating a product that's incredibly hard. We are calling this product Together. It is incredibly hard. It was an incredibly hard build, right? We're about to release any day now. And it took us a long time to find market fit and make it easy. And as you said, amplify it. I think those kinds of things, when you really focus on them and you take your time, albeit frustrating people who want you to move quick, I think you can build something that has a universal appeal to everyone: moms, dads, older people, caregivers, right? Using it for your children. I think we'll eventually get there with this product.
I have a couple of friends in the health tech startup space. I have a doctor buddy out in Atlanta who's launching something. I have another buddy of mine here in DC, and they all face sort of the same hurdles. What are the hurdles that the VC health startup space poses for a physician? Is it because of the physician's background? I'm sure there's pros and cons. Maybe we can talk about that. And also, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is capital sometimes.
Yeah. Well, fundamentally, I don't think VC fortunately have a lot of respect for doctors. It's a real shame. And it's part of this diatribe that's been ongoing where the doctor's been sort of pushed down to carry out tasks and not actually have a voice or a thought process, right? You can see with the EMR, right? Doctors are just expected to keep clicking all day and answer questions all day so that somebody can upcode their note and rip off CMS, right? It's such a joke. So I think that's a real problem, right? And it's not been my experience necessarily, but I have observed it plenty of times in my experience with working with investors. They are not investors of mine currently, right? The investors I have are wonderful, but I've heard a lot of nonsense. So I think that that's a real problem. I also think the market has melted down, right? And getting capital right now, getting even to a Series A right now is extremely difficult, which is why you really have to build a product that people can use even before you try to get funding, which means you're bootstrapping, which means you're doing 2 and 3 jobs at once, which means that's really hard, and you're going to be working your bottom off. You're not getting a full night's sleep, right? You are compromising on some of the things you like to do, taking less vacations or missing a baseball game for your kids or whatever it is, to really build something that is investable, especially right now.
I love that. So the lack of respect sometimes that physicians, some people, I spoke to another physician the other day, and he's like, some people respect you because they want to be a doctor and they can. They ended up going to business, but then the other people are like, hey, you're just a doctor. What do you know about business? So I can see both sides of that coin there. The next is that capital is challenging, and congratulations to, I think, $8 or $9 million of seed funding. That's amazing for your product, and but also bootstrapping your time and bootstrapping your money to where there's no balance in life. We already know that there's only counterbalance, and so you know you do things in these fits and waves in these seasons where you're all in, and then obviously you make sure that we're all juggling things as we know, but there's certain things that are rubber, you know, but there's certain things that are glass, like your health, your relationships, your kids. You never want to drop those, but everything else sometimes there's flex, and so
Yes.
I like how you're able to pivot and twist and do things in such a way that you're still spinning all the plates, if you will. And
Yes.
what's your advice now if someone has an idea, or they're at early stages, and they're wanting to get started? What's some of the advice that you have?
Well, so first you can do it, right? The first thing is you shouldn't believe you can't, because you can. So that would be step one, and to really focus on, again, your operational plan and convincing yourself and believing in yourself. That is step one. And step two is to make sure you have help and ask for help, right? Nowhere have I ever said that, hey, I did everything by myself, right? I have an incredible partner in my husband, right? He taught me a lot about business, and I made a lot of mistakes, and he took a chance on me. So I have a partner, I have help, right? When I have money, I mean, the running joke in my house is I see patients to pay for nannies, right? I
Mhm.
have help. I have 3 children. They go to bed every day, full heart, full belly, thanks to these people who love me, my parents, nannies, right? Nick's
Yeah.
parents, right? And I'm not afraid to reach out to those people and say, Nick and I have to go to San Francisco for one night. Would you be willing to sleep here? Would you be willing to do the vocabulary words? I have to accept they're going to have ice cream before dinner, right? It's going to happen. If I'm not able to do
Grandparents.
everything for my kids,
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen. And I have to accept that, right? So I think finding a great partner, finding people who love you and will help you, they're out there. Very few people do everything alone, right? Somebody gives them a hand. So I think those things, and I do want to acknowledge I have enormous privilege too, to be able to sit here and say, I have a partner, I have parents, I have a nanny, right? That I think I have to own as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So mindset, having an operational plan, a business plan, asking for strategic help, whether that's a business partner, incubator, perhaps it's maybe it's a community of like-minded individuals who cultivate these startups, and then obviously the help to run operations at home, right? The home base,
Yes,
if you will,
yes,
nannies, parents, teachers, all
that's
all
right.
those
After
folks.
school programs,
And
yeah,
then I guess if I had to throw in my own, I'd be like, know your North Star. What's your why? Like, and your powerful why. And I remember in the green room, we were talking about your why, and you're like, I want to have a voice for my patients. I want to show physicians that this is doable.
that's
And
true.
number three, I want to change healthcare. And so
Yeah,
I think you're not doing it for the coin. I mean, there's a lot easier ways to make
for
money
sure.
than this. I know that. So, congratulations on everything you've done. It's absolutely amazing. When you're down, when you get beat up a little bit, how do you get out of that funk? What are your strategies for inspiration?
That's a really great question. And I am very hard on myself. So I've done a few things. Every night, I take 5 minutes and I write in a book what's irritating me.
Mm.
It sounds ridiculous, but it affects my sleep when something's irritating me. And in general, I really try to sleep well. I'm not a great sleeper. So I write down for 5 minutes what is sticking in my craw right now, and how do I get it out of my mouth, out of my head, onto a piece of paper, and swipe the page, right? Turn the page. That's been something that's helped me quite a bit. And I also spend a lot of time when I have time outside. I walk my kids to school. I walk back. Sometimes I walk a little longer. I make an effort. I put a treadmill under my desk and I work right while I walk. So I walk a lot. I think it kind of exhausts you. so that some of these things that annoy you or frustrate you, they're minimized a bit. Those are two things that have really helped me.
I love that. I love that. I coach some of these a lot of high performers and some potentially some CEOs of companies, and they do something very similar called fear journaling, where they put
Mhm.
their worst fears down and they put their you
Great.
know you know Murphy's law, whatever the worst can happen, they just put it on there, and then if it's in your head, you're dead, but if it's on paper, it's almost like it's a catharsis. You feel
Right.
lighter,
Right.
and then it allows them to start processing some of those worst case scenarios, and if they can handle the worst case, and it never ends up being the worst case. Usually it's like somewhere in
Yeah,
the
when you
middle,
see
or
it written
nothing
down.
really even happens. Number two seems like exercise, movement, getting your steps in, and it's almost like releasing that sympathetic drive that we have, that's like pent up, that all that
Mhm.
fear, frustration, negative energy. And then obviously being in nature seems to ground you and
Yes.
keeps you centered, which is awesome. So I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay, cool. What's a book that maybe we've never heard of that has inspired you, or has really helped you in your journey? And then we'll talk about what's the best way for people to get a hold of you.
So, you know how I said I take these walks and whatnot. One of the other things that I have done since the pandemic is I downloaded this amazing app that's free called Libby, Libby.
Okay.
It's the library, right? It's all the books on tape at the library, and I probably get through a book a week,
Nice.
right? I just finished a book by Bono, Surrender, right, which was amazing, from
Okay.
YouTube. And right now, I'm listening to a book called Poverty by America by a man named Matt Desmond, who's a professor in New York. And, listening to people's research, their journey, how they accomplished what they did, listening to Bono, like literally having Bono read to you, which is wonderful, right? I'm a huge U2 fan.
Yeah.
Listening to people read to you and how they've researched and studied a problem and solved a problem, which is what many books do, right? They reconcile an issue. I think is incredibly calming. I would highly recommend that Bono book, and I would highly recommend this book I'm reading now,
Okay.
Poverty by America. It's fascinating to see how we've built this country on so many failures, and how to help, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And biographies, some of the most inspirational people out there, when I read their biography and I hear their struggles, then I'm like, oh, they can overcome it. I think I can.
Exactly.
And some
You
of their
can do
struggles are
anything.
so crazy. I'm like, oh, I have nothing to complain about compared to what they
Wild.
had to go through.
True.
So I like that. I didn't know about Libby. So they'll be on the show notes, guys. And I think you're gonna get a lot of people who want to reach out to you for just various things. So Renee, what's the best way for people to learn about your companies, number one, and learn about you and
Yeah.
get your ecosystem?
So the company website is Together App, TOGETHERAPP.com. And you can go there and you can sign up and be a part of the first downloads, which I'd love to get your feedback if you
Yeah.
download and use the app, you and somebody you love. And I'm always available on email, Renee@Renee.com. That's RENEE at
Okay.
RENEE.com.
It's Renee@Renee.com. And then we have the Together app, app.com. And that will all be in the show notes, guys. Please reach out to her and follow her journey. And she takes her second company to the next level and disrupts healthcare, and really makes a dent in the universe for positivity and good. So thanks so much, Renee, and
I appreciate it.
appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Guys, until next time, thanks again for supporting the podcast. Keep sharing with your friends and colleagues. And until next time, be phenomenal.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below, or simply visit vikramraya.com. Until next time, be phenomenal.